A husband that I've been married to for 14 and a half years. Pretty much 6, 7 times he have cheated, and I'm still with that person. So on this last incident, he snuck and went out of town and went move with another woman.
How long was he gone?
Almost 2 years. So my question is, I'm having a hard time, cause he I'm a changed person. I'm getting older. I'm not gonna do this again.
You know what's crazy? If you believe him, I believe him.
I know, right?
Goddamn. But in all honesty, you're not married. The term "will you marry me" does not protect the covenant. Your actions do. But if that man is not acting as a husband, that man is not a husband, which in turn means you are not a wife.
Ooh.
You letting a stranger get away with a lot of things under your household.
Can I ask a question? I think it's easier to accept that behavior when we doing our own thing on the side too. Have you stepped out too?
When he was out there with that person, I did.
Yeah, she said, wow. Oh, I got reupholstered. I did get reupholstered myself, just a tad bit. And yes, his was bigger, yes.
Alright, so y'all, so at the beginning of the video, I posted like a little clip from tonight's Conversation podcast, and it's ultimately like a dating show panel podcast where they may either do like pre-recordings or live recordings, and I just was so fortunate enough to go to a live recording session of tonight's Conversation podcast. And it was really an insightful and a really retrospective experience for me because I got to like see what like modern takes on like, you know, different topics of what dating and what different relationships bring, but also like what different relationship dramas bring. Like for that example, for that lady, she said that she was married and then her husband stepped out like 10 times. And then the last time he was gone for like 2 years, and then therefore she stepped out to prove like, oh, like I don't, like, you know, there's someone else that wants me. And I just wanted to have like an in-depth conversation with you guys because I went to tonight's Conversation podcast and I wanted to provide like my thoughts and ultimately like why I see value in conversations like these being had, but also like giving sound wisdom and doctrine and advice. Because one of the ladies on the podcast, I think her name was Kitty, she was probably my favorite panelist for answering questions for that podcast session. And she's a reoccurring figure, and of course there's others as well. But before we get into the video, what's good, y'all? It's your boy D-Lou, back at it again with another banger video. In this video, we're going to be talking about tonight's Conversation podcast and like what I was able to get from it, and then why I think conversations like that are important, and why like conversations like for dating and stuff is important as well, but also why some people, they don't need to have platforms like that. But before we get into the video, y'all know the deal. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with a friend so that we may continue to grow into the people God wants us to be each and every single day. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's get it gang. Tonight's Conversation podcast, they came live to Houston, I believe a few weeks ago, and I went to the Houston airing of that because I was interested like when I first saw it and like saw a few clips of it. It piqued my interest because I first saw it on like social media, so I wanted to see what was going on. My partner, she recommended it. She was like, oh, I think we should go to this, and I just took a look at the page and I was like, it's interesting. And to be honest with you guys, hopefully one day, if I'm blessed enough and it's within God's will, I want to do something like that, you know? Like, at least provide, like, a holistic, like, wellness and, like, you know, provide good, sound doctrine advice for, like, people out there navigating relationships and, like, kind of like what Kitty does, you know? So, we got our tickets and we went. And the live airing show, like before, like, you like before you get into the show and everything, first you show up to the venue place. So we did that. We waited in line. We got seated in a very quick amount of time. So we did that, and then we got sat down. They had like a live DJ and everything. They were just playing old classic tunes, and it was turn, honestly. You had people from like young and older ages there, and it was low key like a mix and blend of like going back to like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and just playing music, just trying to hype the event up. And I'll see if I could post some other videos and clips from that.
Battle the kid is white flag. I changed the game and it's up now. The city that need me is clear now.
Because it's honestly really dope. If it's coming to your city, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's a very insightful experience, and like it's just a fun experience to go see like what's going on. Even though we know the streets is not looking too good as far as dating wise, but it's fun to see like what's going on out here and see what like the streets is talking about as far as dating, as far as relationships, and just hearing what other people have to say. I wouldn't say get involved with the drama, but I would say it is like you can learn something from it. So Ace, he brought out like his panel, because they do it in ultimately like six podcast recordings, because they bring out like a panelist for like 3 recordings, and they swap out for the second show, and they bring out another set of panelists for the other 3, and in total it's 6. And then you have like a group of like maybe 4 to 6 people like ask questions, and they record an episode for that. And each question can vary, but I think the selection process for the questions, it ultimately revolves around like what's the juicier or spicier question for you to get selected for tonight's conversation podcast. Because it doesn't seem like ordinary questions can get asked, but it seems like the more juicier, like the more hot and spicy the topic is, the more likely you'll get called up to ask your question and all that. So we got to hear a myriad of different like questions, like ranging from like infidelity, ranging from like what gender roles look like for marriages nowadays, why is it okay, like if men cheat, why is it okay, and then when women cheat, like why men get butthurt about it. And it's just a bunch of different things. But as you know, for me, I think cheating and all that, that's just a no-go. Like no matter what relationship you're in, I think it's important to be forthcoming and just like out there and just be straight and thorough, and like keep your intentions pure. Like there shouldn't be no need to cheat. If you want to cheat, you might as well just be like, hey, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. I want to go out and do my own thing. You shouldn't have, so you don't go behind someone's back and break their trust, and then you ultimately compromise the covenant relationship that you guys have because you introduced a third party and you wanted to go out and get your rocks off. So ultimately, there was one case where like it was this dude, I forgot what his name was, but he was like the MVP for like that night because he has like the most outrageous question. Like it was something about like his partner. Well, I'll give you a quick rundown of it. His partner ultimately, like it was an older dude. His partner was like in her late 20s, 30s or something like that.
What do you do when your wife, she here, and all the people I'm talking about,
About to go down.
respects and appreciates her friends more than she does her husband who pays the bills with her?
Please define for me respect.
If I call her and she on the phone with one of those friends that's back there,
Hey, you know this when he like,
my point is she don't respect my energy and effort to stay in our relationship, stay in our marriage, and stay with our children, stay with her. She respects their opinions, their thoughts, their...
I'm paying attention to how you're even referring to your wife right now. Like I'm paying attention to the fact that you're willing to humiliate your wife in front of thousands of people also. So what is it that you do inside of the house that will make it to where she can actually respect you? Because just because you pay bills and things like that doesn't mean that you will be able to get fully that level of respect. Hold on. Because if you say you pay bills, but if I'm coming to you about a concern, if I'm coming to you about something I'm grieving, something you hurt me on, something that I feel abandoned on, will you give me the safety to be able to talk about it? Can I trust you emotionally? Can I trust you spiritually? Can I trust you financially? Can I trust you in all of these aspects to prove that you give me a level of emotional security? Do we actually have a partnership? Because just because you married does not mean that you have entered into an actual partnership. Are we truly aligned? Because I hear you and I understand that a wife is supposed to respect you, but a husband is supposed to love a wife as well. So how are you loving your wife? Because a lot of times her lack of respect of you is a reflection of your lack of love for her, the appropriate love. So that's my question to you. What are you actually doing that will allow her to come up to that level to where she can respect you as the head of household?
And this is to the men in the room. We got to stop reducing ourselves to a paycheck and paying a bill. You added that as if that replaces you being a person.
She pays most of the bills. I manage the bills.
Mr. Paul, I love you. We gonna quit while we ahead, Mr. Paul. So can we talk after the show, Mr. Paul, me and you? All right, let's talk after the show.
And they've been married, and like I guess like she's like her friends, they were there at tonight's conversation podcast along with her and with him, and he was just like calling her out and just being like, oh, like, you know, I feel like she doesn't respect me. And, you know, her friends are kind of like the proponent for it and the perpetuators of it. So he was just calling them out, which was causing like all types of drama. And then it turns out like he was leaving out a crucial detail where he was just like, you know, well, why do you feel like he's like your partner is like not respecting you? And she was like, because I think she's the breadwinner or something like that. So we're just like, so you kept that out. Like you weren't telling the full story. And that's the thing with like, you know, these questions where like it seems like the podcast panel, they have to like pry information out of you, because I get going up there and asking a question, it's nerve-wracking, like going up on a live studio audience and then like going in front of like a bunch of celebrities who have their own hot takes in relationships and dating, and then like, you know, the presumption where like they may judge you. It can be daunting for some people. But it doesn't mean that it's okay for you to like leave out all the details, because if you're gonna go up and say something, I just say it with to the max and like don't leave anything back, because it's just like you don't want to, like, you need the context of everything. So give a full, clear description of like what you say and like what really happened, and don't leave any details out. But he left out some information. Like I guess they were just like, all right, so we're just gonna have to address this privately. So he excused himself. He waited till the end of the show, till like I guess one-on-one they had a conversation. I don't know how that happened. I love to see like, you know, they do an update on how he's doing or not, but that could be a little bit personal, because when he goes home he might not have a place to sleep, because he ultimately put his wife like on blast and all of her friends on blast. So there might be that, but like just topics around that, and like it just really showed that like, you know, in your relationships and how you navigate things and like just experiencing different things on different walks of life, people have different moral compasses, different values, different ways how they what they look for in a partner, of, you know, standards and different like, you know, deal breakers and things. And it's just important to like get to know your partner. If you're going to deal with someone, first make sure that you're healed already. First and foremost, make sure that you're healed already. Make sure that you've done the work for yourself. So, you know, whether it be inner work, healing, therapy, you know, going to the gym, getting your finances and stuff right, and knowing that you have something going for yourself before you get out there. And then maybe you can look into, and then also too, making sure that your relationship with God is intact. Because if you don't have a relationship with God or the higher power, no, not even higher power. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, then what are you doing? Like, I advise you to go get that checked out first and foremost, and then you can entertain if you want to do life with someone else and navigate having these relationships and conversations with people. So make sure you have you and your relationship with Jesus in order first and foremost. And then second, like, make sure that the person that you're talking to, make sure that you guys are aligned. Because I learned like in therapy that like when you're talking to someone, obviously it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm looking for short-term fun, because that's ultimately just wasting people's time, and like that's just, you just want companionship, and everyone wants companionship at the end of the day. But I think it's important where like nowadays people are looking for someone, they're not like don't waste people's time. Don't waste people's time, and be upcoming with what you want and your intentions, and just don't waste people's time, because someone may be looking for their forever partner, and like, you know, they're a happily ever after. You're just like, oh, I'm just looking to have fun and see where things go. So be upcoming and be like, you know, forefront with that and with your intentions. And ultimately, when it comes to like, I can only speak from the male perspective, men, fellas, when it comes to treating women, I know that there's a whole thing out here like, oh, like most women are gold diggers, or most women, they just want something out of men. That's not the case. Not all women are gold diggers. You just gotta find the diamonds in the rough, and a woman that like truly aligns with your values and what you stand for, and not for the superficial stuff. And like ultimately, depending on like, you know, if you're a believer or not, this is for my believers, because I'm a believer as well. I'm speaking to you guys. Find yourselves a Proverbs 31 woman. If you find yourselves a Proverbs 31 woman, you gotta properly vet them and like properly see like how they interact, like, you know, how do they treat people, how do they treat their friends, how do they treat their family members, what does their relationship with their parents look like, you know, just hang around them and like, you know, move with intention, ask questions, because that's the only way to get to know someone. Don't just ignore like red flags just to be like, oh well, you know, I think it could change. It's like, no, if you see a red flag, address it, nip it in the bud, or move your way. So I would say that. But also, you know, ask questions from the get-go and be forefront with what you want and your expectations. And, you know, if you guys are aligned with each other in you guys' morals and values and purpose, and hopefully see like, you know, what you can do, and take your time with it. Take your time, get to know them for them. Don't rush anything, because I know the whole thing, like there's a whole perception where it's just like, oh, I need to go off and get married, but like don't rush into marriage, because like you want to make sure that when you're ready to take that step, the person on the other side, like your partner, is also ready too, that they've been doing the work, you guys been growing together, so you guys can build and establish an empire together and build something long lasting. So there's no more statistics being added for like divorce and like, you know, breaking up households and then families and all that. But tonight's podcast conversation, I really did enjoy it, and like it ultimately taught me a lot about like, you know, like problems that, you know, people go in their relationships, it can get a whole lot worse. Like what you might be dealing with your relationship, whether it be communicating or something along the lines of that, or just going through rough patches, it can always be worse. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on tonight's conversation podcast? I low-key been thinking about doing like a review series on like, you know, their episodes and seeing like what they got to talk about, giving my hot takes and stuff, and just doing deep dive conversations about what, you know, the conversations they're talking about. Love to get to know what you guys think and how you guys feel about certain topics and opinions. Don't drop it in the comments below if you want to see me do that type of thing, or just different ideas that you want me to cover on this channel. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with a friend, so that we may continue to grow into the people that God wants us to be each and every day. As always, Jesus loves you, and so do I. It's your boy D. Lou, signing out. Take care.